Good evening and welcome to tonight's show from DJNTV, Disc Jockey News TV. Tonight's show is brought to you by Electra Voice, DJ Event Planner, DJ Trivia, Odyssey Innovative Designs and Cases, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and the DJNTV Insiders.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Let's do this again. There we go. It's interrupting my viewing.
Hey, John.
Yeah?
I think we have a show to do.
Huh? It's 9 o'clock, Dan. Dan, we're supposed to be doing a show.
And it's 10 o'clock.
Oh, it's 10 o'clock. Well, then
So it's even more reason why we have to be doing
the show is over. Thanks for watching, everybody. It was a fun time. Oh, no.
Good night.
Good night. We'll see you next time.
Oh, my goodness. No, it is Monday night. It is 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 8 Mountain, and 7 Pacific. Is that how it goes?
Sure.
Eastern's the only one that matters. We keep trying to tell you that, John.
Pretty much.
You were living it for the last week.
I was living it, and it's like 10 o'clock there, and I'm thinking, wow, I should watch the 9 o'clock news.
9 o'clock news?
We have 9 o'clock news at home. That's for those of us who we went to Denny's and we got the 4 o'clock special, and then we come home and then we watch the 6 o'clock news, and then we spend from 7 until 9 o'clock complaining about the economic situation in the United States. Then at 9 o'clock, we watch the news and go to bed.
That explains so much.
You're welcome.
Well, for everybody else that is into the right time and ready to join in, thank you very much for taking time out of your Monday evening to join us. I know there's preseason football, there's Little League baseball going on, and yet here you are entertaining with or having some fun with all of us. So there you go. All right. So here's the deal. If you have been living under a rock and really not been aware of what's been going on, last week, Monday through Thursday, was DJ Times DJ Expo in Atlantic City. And so 2 weeks ago, we previewed what was coming up the show and some of the things to look at. We went through like all the different seminars, just kind of gave a lowdown. And tonight is going to be kind of a recap. Tonight, John and I are going to talk a little bit about those seminars specifically, some of the tips that we were able to take from them, the top 5 tips that kind of stood out. And then I've actually got a bonus one from the seminars that I would like to add in as well. And then if we've got some time, we'll talk about the showroom floor, some of the surprises, some of the nice things that was a welcome piece, I guess we could call it.
Ooh.
There were some things that I was very impressed by on the showroom floor. I know some people might not agree with me, but I'm entitled to my opinion, and so be it.
A welcome piece that was found on the showroom floor.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I'm intrigued. You have You have tempted my imagination to try to guess what that could be. I'm gonna.
Well, then we've got to get through these other 5 if we're ever going to get to that.
Okay, so let's start. Well, let's kind of set the stage a little bit for those of you who've never been to DJ Expo. Multiple days of education. Monday is the day of, I would say, the I don't want to say strongest education, but I think it's there's a real strong focus on it on Monday because there isn't any exhibit hall. So there was some really great content on Monday. There's other things throughout the rest of the week that were certainly good, but I think that Monday is kind of front loaded. Would you say, Dan? Is that a good way to say?
And here's the thing that some people might kind of go, well, why is everything Monday? Why would they not spread it out a little bit more, or however they might want to think about it? We got to remember that the bread and butter for these shows is the showroom floor. So if they're putting their heavy hitter content on a Tuesday when vendors are wanting to see people on the floor, it kind of contradicts things a little bit. So yeah, I would definitely agree that Monday was full of those heavy hitter contents. Although I will say this, there was Wednesday, I think was a very close second. Wednesday was a very close second for me as far as what there was and the content that I like seeing. So
excellent. Well, I'd be definitely interested in hearing the Wednesday review because unfortunately we had to book out and we were flying back to Minnesota.
It happens.
That was flying.
It happens. So let's start right in with the very first one. It was the very first seminar, the very first actual seminar, we should say, and I was thoroughly impressed. Right, so it's Mike Walter. And to say I was impressed, I mean, that's raising the bar high because this guy knocks it out of the park every time he does a seminar, every time he presents. And this was not the first time he's presented this topic on why people dance. In fact, if you went to Mobile Beat or you went to Arms DJs down in Gatlinburg, he presented at both of those locations. And from what I understand, people who are at both of them said, yeah, very similar, but I caught so many things that I missed the first time that I'm glad I got a chance to sit through it a second time. So it was very kind of cool to see that. But I would say there was within this, even though there's one, yeah, there's the picture of me. I was taking notes.
Working.
I was taking good notes.
He was working.
I was. Couple pieces that I kind of overlooked. So first off, he talked about the 3 different types of dancers. There are the people that dance. There are the people that don't dance, in which he called sitters. And then there's the people called skeptics, which are that in-between group, which we really have to kind of work to make do with what we've got. But my first takeaway was the sitters. Don't force them to get up.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're happy sitting and talking, and it's not that they need that extra encouragement to get up, but rather they don't want to get up.
Yeah.
And if you make them get up, they're not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because I do kind of a bit, if you will, for lack of better terms, on where I try and get everybody to come to the dance floor for a slow song to, be good luck for the bride and groom. And I'm realizing afterwards, I'm like, man, that person is hating me right now.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that for the reasons of getting them up besides the usual ones.
Yeah. I mean, you've used your Lutheran mother voice to, well, if you really don't want to get up, you don't have to. But the bride and groom would have one more year of happily married life if you were up. And, then
the second group that was really the ones that stood out were the skeptics, because as Mike talked about, he basically said, your dancers, they're going to get up for pretty much anything. Your sitters are not going to get up for most of anything. And so your skeptics are the ones where you really kind of have to focus. You want them on the floor. You want to do what you can to get them on the floor, and you want to be able to keep them on the floor. And so he said, stop resetting your dance floor. Stop, stop creating bad mixes. Stop throwing in songs that are so new, nobody's going to know them. Your job is not to break songs at a wedding. Your song is not save that for the club guys, save that for the radio guys. At a wedding, you want to get them on the floor, and they're going to do that to the songs that they know. So again, a lot of great content. And then fake it till you make it was was a line that I wrote down, I underlined and highlighted and everything else. I know I personally do not smile enough when I'm behind the board, especially when I'm thinking. Like I start thinking and I'm like, I start doing this and whatever, and wringing my hands, just trying to think of like, okay, where am I going to go? That's going to pull this back around if it goes a little sour. And he's just like, get that smile on your face, make it, don't be staring at your computer screen, doing this, pretty much any chance you get, just to kind of really set that level up a little bit higher. And then lastly, your skeptics, they often are skeptics because they lack confidence. So if you can compliment them, if you can make sure that they are feeling good about being out there, you're more likely to keep them out there because you've raised their confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, anything you would add to that? I mean, I just wanted to jot a couple. I didn't want to do Mike's whole seminar because I'm telling you, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Presents it again. You got to see.
I think probably the part that you started out with were those skeptics, is that we just, or not skeptics, excuse me, the sitters, the people who were sitting. We spent how many years of our early DJ career just fretting about those people? How can we get them up? And it was really kind of refreshing that the way Mike broke it down, and he went through and looked at age groups and demographics and anything else he could in his survey, because I think he surveyed about 650 give or take people with this to get his information for this. But the idea that, as and I'm having a conversation with Michael now, is that there are going to be some people you just are not going to get. We used to refer to them as butt dancers because they would sit there and kind of be up in their chair and they would never get up. And there are people like that just enjoy that moment. So it really, and you boil his whole seminar down, you've got this one group of people that you have to focus on to try to win their hearts and souls, so they'll come on out and be part of the night. And so it was definitely eye-opening. And this is the second time I've heard that, and it's interesting where you hear it multiple times and you take away different things each time. So I definitely enjoy Mike's seminars to begin with, but this one is certainly a home run seminar, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the next seminar that I want to talk about, rather than 5 tips, I kind of got 5 seminars. I guess that works. You hit this next one in for those of you that were tuned in a few moments ago. John was talking about surviving an economic downturn and referenced Jerry Bazada's seminar and was talking about that. That's my number 2. That was my number 2. It stood out to me. I want to kind of give a little bit of a disclaimer or apology, I guess, if you will. Last week or 2 weeks ago when we did the preview show, I said that this was going to be a dry seminar. And as I'm sitting in the seminar, I realized that the content is really what was dry about it because it's financial.
Yeah, we're numbers.
Exactly. It's crunching numbers. It's doing this, it's doing that. Jerry did a great job of taking that content and making sure he was presenting it in such a way that it was sinking in and it was beneficial. One thing that kind of was a little bit nerve-wracking was the fact that he talked about how he actually, in his opinion, that we are going to be having an economic downturn happening this fall.
Yep.
That it's going to be that soon. It's going to be a short one, is his thought, and that we might be coming out of it by the beginning part of next year. But it's already slow for a lot of us. And now we're talking about an economic downturn kind of hitting at the same time. So just one of those things that we want to make sure you're aware of. Now, he gave some tips to really kind of get through this. And if you did not tune into John earlier, make sure you go back and watch that. But if not, I'll kind of give you a couple other tips that filled in as well. One thing he said is, get credit now. Don't wait until you're like needing it to apply for it, because at that point, if it's an economic downturn, the banks are going to be a little bit more tight with what they have. They might not be as willing to give you the credit that you may want or need. Make sure you're putting cash away now, because and this is really where this leads into this next one, which is don't stop marketing. One of the things, and he said this, it was kind of funny. He said, what do you think people give up when money gets tight? And people were like, oh, frills. And he goes, no, it's marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about how in one of the previous economic downturns, he actually ramped up his marketing and then became this forefront in his area because everybody else kind of pulled away and just almost like disappeared.
Yeah.
And he said, if you're marketing, people know you're still there Where if you decide, you know what, I'm not going to do it, the question is, well, wait a minute, is that person still around? Did they disappear? Have they moved? Like, you know, what exactly is going on? So I thought it was interesting the fact that you talked about that. And I've heard that philosophy before, you know, make sure you're still doing the things that you're doing, even if it's a tight time. But putting the money away now helps, so when that happens, you have it available to you. Don't discount your services. You know, don't knock things down. Know where your bottom line is, and so if you start discounting, you're now downplaying your service. And so when things do turn back around, you kind of you're fighting a battle that you just kind of dug yourself into. And of course, get a handle on your expenses. You know, if you're blowing everything that you make, you know, there's not much that you can do. So that was what I have on Jerry. Anything that you want to?
I think the one thing I didn't talk about, and you mentioned, Jerry, of course, mentioned it was going to be a short, a short, and this is an area that I would disagree with him. I think his timing, and I mentioned this in the video, that late 19, early 2020 is accurate, but I think that what we're going to have is, if there is something, it's going to be caused by a combination of a very depressed farm economy and a farm market in the Midwest, which is going to cause the Midwest issues. You're going to have consumer issues after the first of the year if they do kick in the next round of tariffs. One of the things in today's, it was on yesterday with the Meet the Press, one of the experts was talking about that that there isn't the average consumer isn't paying for these tariffs yet, which is interesting because we as DJs, we're paying increased prices, but the average consumer isn't. But that's going to be changing in the next round that we're going to be seeing. So we're going to have these things. And then you think about the only way to really come out of something like this is with government bailout, in essence, to get you out quickly. And if you think that there's going to be a bailout before the election, ain't going to happen. There will not be anything like that before the presidential election. So depending upon how things go, if we do have one this fall, or at least I think you're going to be seeing about a year or two, at least a year, maybe a year and a half before we come out of it. So for those of you wondering if it's worth digging into, I would highly recommend that. Go watch the video or just listen to what Dan said, just rewind it. And he just summarized me 20 minutes of talking in 2.5 minutes.
Well, I can do that from time to time. Usually it's me who rambles though. Hey, so you know, it's all good. Oh my, but yeah, no, I think it's worth being prepared, whether you're full-time, whether you're part-time, no matter what, things are going to happen. Now, I am optimistic. Let me put it this way about one thing he said, and that is the wedding market is often recession-proof.
Yep, very much so.
That's maybe a little bit over the top, but because what we're seeing is more and more couples are paying for things for themselves. So while they are saving for that event, it's not, you know, mom and dad who may have been saving since, you know, their kids were 10 or whatever happens to be the case. So,
and speaking of the wedding market, we have an interesting thing next year of it being a 2020. And sometimes when we have these even years like that, 2020, people jump at getting married. So that's why a lot of us have got more bookings already on the books for 2020 than we did at this point for 2019. So we have some things in our, as DJs, favor. If we're good at what we do and can convey that value, it's just a question of how is this going to affect the other aspects of our lives and the towns and cities that we live in, and our friend who owns that little cafe on the corner, are they going to be able to survive? And that's going to be probably the telling long-term resultants of this situation. So yeah, Reggie's mentioning August and October of 2020 is full, and Reggie's seeing exactly that, is that 2020, there people are excited to have those years as their marriage years.
And if you didn't go ahead and look at the dates, not only do we have 2020, but you have 2/22, 4/4, 6/6, 8/8, 10/10, I believe 12/12 are all Saturdays next year.
Really?
Yeah. So you not only have the 2020, but you on all the even months, your double, your month and your day, except for February, which is the 22nd, are all Saturdays.
Interesting. See, now that takes a math guy to be noticing this thing and to make that so.
Yeah, I got to credit a friend of mine because he was on it way before I was. He was just like, we're those days are already going to be at a premium for our price.
And
Like
he has
packages, the whole 9 yards.
he's got a liberal arts degree and he caught it before the math guy.
Yeah. I wasn't looking that far in advance. He's got 10 guys he's worried about sending out. So he
Funny.
tends to crunch numbers even faster than me. But yeah. So let's move on. Fox Feldman. If you don't know Fox, he's from out in North Carolina, really great guy. And he has a very specific way that he goes about his events. But the topic of his seminar was talking about managing reactions from start to finish. And there was one key that I really want to focus on this. It was a great seminar. There was a lot of cool things that he pulled out and he gave a lot of, this is how I do it to get this reaction. But he really said, you need to sit down and ask yourself before you go into your meeting, before you get started, what do you want? What reaction do you want to have happen? Now, okay, how do you make that happen? And I think too often times we don't think about that from the meeting standpoint. The reaction is, oh, we want to get the gig. Like that's the reaction. No, that's not the reaction we want. Yeah, we want the reaction that they give to cause that to happen, but we want them to feel an emotion. We want them to connect with us. We want them to feel something going on during this meeting that leads them to making that decision. And then asking them questions like, what do you want to have happen when your guests walk into the room? Like, what do you want them to feel? And what was so funny about that was when he said that, I went, I have a heck of a time selling uplightings, and I never even thought about if I asked that question, now my stuff is probably going to roll out the door, because when you ask them, what do you want them to feel when they walk into the room? Suddenly they go, oh, I want them to see the room and go, yeah, this is awesome. And rather than, oh, I just, I want them to have fun. We always hear them say, I want them to have fun. I want my guests to have fun. Okay. And everybody focuses kind of like on your open dancing for that fun time. But here's an opportunity for them to start managing those reactions and the grand entrance. What do you want them to feel there? Father, daughter. And like I said, he started laying out. The more he got into the seminar, the more it became what he does to get those reactions.
Sure.
But again, that very first part, what do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do? Now let's focus on how we get them there. So,
and I think that's going back to our teaching world is in essence what we want as a final result. We want the kids to be able to have the information to pass the test. Now, what do we have to do to get them there? And that's really to a point. There's a level of those kind of things that become somewhat natural to you and I, because that's the world we grew up and raised and were trained in. But for a lot of DJs, that concept is just, it's like, oh, that's right. We can work backwards sometimes. We don't have to just hope and be surprised at what happens. Let's just rig it by knowing what the result is we want, and then we'll work backwards to get that result. And so, yeah, that's a great practical use right there for surely.
Absolutely. So that was my Monday. That was where I kind of focused my Monday, and I, like I said, Monday was full of a lot of great things, but those three from Monday really stood out to me as top notch. That, like I said, there were some other great ones that were thrown in there. John, were you able to catch any others on your Monday?
I did, and just I'm actually popping over. I should have opened this up. I thought I had it opened up.
You did the same thing I did. Pop it open just to double check. Yeah.
Jordan Marshall, Keeping It Cool in 2019. This was a seminar where he's talking about your look and your brand and how to do this. And I sat in there, and for those of you who don't know, Jordan Marshall, he's been on some shows with us. You'll see him more this fall on our channels and such. He is a bar mitzvah talent in such on the East Coast, and he has a style. Is the best way to style. He's a younger, hip style, whatever you want to refer to it as. So he's talking about these different things and where he gets his information, how he does this and that. And it was myself, Lori, and Michael, my son, 16-year-old. Lori and I are basically there, like, kind of, what was that? And Michael's like, oh yeah, I know that one. Oh yeah, I get, Jordan's talking his language because Michael's more into that style and creating that look, that specific look that he's wanting. Which ironically, he doesn't use much of that when he's DJing. He does that more when he's going to school and different things with that. But hey, he knew many of those resources that Jordan was sharing of where you can find information to be that trendy person and to be able to look good and such with your performance. So that was kind of a neat seminar. It could have been a 20-minute seminar instead of whatever it was. I think it was an hour. I think about a good 20 minutes would have fit that one pretty well, just from the feeling with that. So DJ business, and then...
Well, while we're on the topic of that, I will say that was actually one that I wondered, I kind of regretted not going to, because I caught the last 15 to 20 minutes of it, and where he wasn't on the about dressing cool, looking cool, and everything else like that. And I'm trying to remember the app. He gave an app, Diddy, which I thought, I was like, in that 15 minutes, I was like, I'm glad I stuck my head in. And it was the idea of taking a picture and putting a song with it and sending it over to your couples that just takes it more than just you send them a picture.
Yeah, I think he said using it to make a thank you card.
Yeah,
something like that effect, or something like that. So, do you have the URL on that again?
DITTY was DITTY is the name of the app. So I just put it in by ZYA is the company who did it.
ZYAmusic.com. ZYAmusic.com. So you guys can go check that out. Yeah, so it's by Zaya. But yeah, that definitely was, that sounded pretty cool. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I caught that because I was walking by. I was heading my way over to Jerry's seminar, and I just happened to walk by at the right time, and I was like, oh, I've got a few minutes to kill. Let me just see what he's talking about. And he starts talking about that, and I'm like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. But I'm glad to hear that the first half was what I thought it was. So I don't feel as bad, I guess.
Jay Brandon was asking about his telethon. Yes, it raised about just short of $2, Jay. So I want that the children in East Atlantic City are eating well because of the money you raised. It was part of the chill event, which is Tuesday.
Oh,
which we're not there yet, but Jay, in case he has to jump, I wanted to make it too. Okay, so yeah, the other thing that was interesting is that from 5 to 6 o'clock, PV presents Pay It Forward, teaching kids and beginners how to DJ. The press release came through, and I looked at that, and it's like, I don't understand. So as they start the event, there's a few young kids, probably 10, 12 and under, that are buzzing around and such. Well, they were there, of course, to be part of this. Really what it did, and maybe, this is what I was watching and such as I was in there, because I was in there bouncing back and forth, checking internet, is that it was a seminar put together to show DJs how you can create a DJ school and teach kids within your community. Specifically for those of us who are that entrepreneurial side, you could set up a little DJ school and teaching high school and elementary. I mean, heck, you could teach anybody, but having that little school to teach them how to become a DJ and, charging a few bucks to do it, kind of like a community ed type thing, whatever. And that's what they were doing. But I didn't get that so much. I was, when they were taking you through on how to put that together, I missed that. So that's why I wanted to go see what it was, because I had so many questions about it. I mean, it's like, are they going to have 10 kids or 20 kids in there and teaching the kids are they bringing kids from the casino floor and, hey, you get away from that game, kid, come here, I'm going to show you how to be a DJ. I didn't know, you just don't know. So that was interesting. Certainly. Okay. Monday night. What did we do Monday night? Oh, I think we just vegged Monday night.
Yeah, I went to the opening show. Kid Casper, I was thoroughly impressed with his talent, and he was feeding off the crowd, and they were really getting into it and just having a good time and just enjoying it. And Big Daddy, Jordan Marshall, and Ricky G finished it. And the only problem I had was I really couldn't understand a lick of what they were saying. And I think it was more probably where I was standing, but I just could not quite understand it. But Ricky G and Jordan both got right down in the middle of everybody and kind of did this side versus this side and just getting into it. And they tend to do these at the expos if you've been to them in the past. But it was a lot of fun. And Big Daddy's up on the stage. And I mean, and it was a solid 20 minutes to half an hour of just in your face, all out. And Ricky G is just like dripping wet within like the first 5 minutes. But no, it was cool. Like I said, it was a lot of fun. In the past, sometimes I've skipped that or I've gone and I've been there for, 5-10 minutes and then I'd leave. This year I got right down in the middle of it and just soaked it all in and just had a great time with it. So
excellent.
Yeah.
So anything, highlights on Tuesday beyond going to Canal Sound and Lights booth and the exhibit hall? Jeffrey's in the room with us, so I can say that.
Okay. Tuesday to me was, I was kind of, there's nothing on my schedule from Tuesday.
Okay.
Oh no, I take it back. The end of the day I take it back. I had to look and see what was on Tuesday. So my end of the day, I started with Jeremy's seminar. I love Jeremy. Don't get me wrong. The only problem I had with Jeremy's is I've sat through it now. This would have been the third time.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of a couple little new designs he had, I walked out there going, okay, this is the same seminar that I've seen before.
Right. Yeah.
It was very cool. And one of the things I love about the way he does, and this is one thing that a lot of people hate, is he shows his really big events that he gets and his, $25,000, $50,000 client that he has, but he doesn't start there. He starts by showing what anybody who's just getting introduced to the lighting design game can do and builds it up through. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is one of the last things you're seeing is these big events. And so that's what sticks in your mind and you get stuck with, unfortunately. But like I said, did some great things. There's some very cool lights coming out from Chevet that they had there. And when we get to the show floor, I'll talk about one of those specifically that kind of caught my eye. I didn't buy it yet, but definitely caught my eye. So
excellent.
So while we're talking about it, so the one that did jump out at me, Rob Peters. We've had him as a part of I think our convention series, or definitely did a seminar and stuff with us on here before. He did 10 more things that you could do to improve your DJ business. Kind of a follow up to what he did last year. He had 10 things. This year he did 10 more things, and he said he's already in the process of writing next year's, which is another 10 more things that you can do to improve your DJ business. So then first off, I will say he's got a podcast. Oh, go ahead.
And then the year after it'll be still more. It's still 10 more.
I do like that. I mean, they're very to the point. They're very easy to follow. Are you going to do all 10? No, but can you easily add 9 of them? Sure. Yeah. And the one thing I do like is the fact that they're also very actionable. So even if you only pick, like, I'm going to pick 2 of them and I'm going to focus on doing those 2, you're going to be able to see some improvement. So 3 of them that really stuck out to me, one I automatically do, and the other 2 are something I'm looking into. And one is called getting accountable. Get somebody that you can talk with, somebody that you can spend some time with, and be honest with them. You don't be afraid to talk to somebody. And he even kind of said, get outside of your market, so you're not tempted to lie to them, because it's, oh yeah, business is great, yeah. No, like somebody that you're going to be able to be accountable for what you're doing and what you're doing to improve your business, and coming alongside each other to hold each other as accountable. Create an advisory board. So what I find funny, and this is something that if you spend any time on any of the DJ forums that are open to everybody and their brother who pretends to be a DJ, what you often find is, hey, what do you think of my logo?
Yep.
What do you think about this? Well, that's great, but you're asking other DJs, and for depending on what you're asking, that really kind of becomes a loaded question. And so what he suggested was creating or getting together an advisory board, and not DJs. You might have a DJ on there, but you've got some previous couples, you've got some vendors that you work well with, you've got other people in the business, and you're not making 30 people, but these are 10 people. And then what he says he will do is every year he sends them like a little gift card, just as a thank you for being my sounding board.
Mm-hmm.
Gift card to some place or whatever. He's like, he doesn't pay him directly. These are people he's formed relationships with. So they're kind of just doing it to be nice, but obviously he's going to do that. And that's where the third one comes into play, which is showing gratitude. You've got so many people that are coming alongside helping you, whether it's referrals, whether it's just the kindness of their own heart. And he talked about some of the gifts that he creates for his wedding couples that might cost $50 or $60, but they're a huge talking piece when the whole thing is over. And he talked about just even like using sound lyrics in this beautiful display and putting that up for people to check out. And then what happens is they hang it in their house. So what happens when people come over? Oh, tell me about that.
Sure.
That's cool. Oh, our DJ gave that to us. Your DJ gave you a gift?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. So like just, working those kind of things. Definitely cool. And like I said, the 10 that he's got are great. A little plug for him. He's got a podcast that he just recently got off the ground.
Yeah.
I think he's 3 or 4 episodes in. Give it a shot. Listen to him. The guy knows what he's talking about. And I like that he's very talkable. He is the bubble guy, which some of you are familiar with. He also has a program if you're wanting to do some kid events. Now I'm giving him like plugs all over the place.
You are. You're just.
But you can talk to Scott Carroll too, because he's one of his bubble guys that helps out there. So anything else you want to add from Tuesday, like day?
I think that, on Tuesday, the only thing I really heard much about, and in the chat room, hang on a sec. I want to make sure I'm talking about the right person. Mark Sounds mentions in here that he'd been to multiple DJ expos, and it was very, very similar to past experiences. And I'm paraphrasing Mark's on this. And Tuesday was, there's a game seminar, there's a bar mitzvah seminar, there's this, there's that. It's very, very similar. So I get completely what you're saying on that. For the one that I didn't attend, but I heard some things with is Z-Trip. Some people who sat in it with Z-Trip said he was really, really good, and they were surprised. Did you get to listen to them, Z-Trip, at all?
I did not.
Yeah, no. They talked that this guy was charming and entertaining, and it was just a fun session to get. So I didn't expect it to be, because a lot of the times when it's Q&A with a celebrity is that they can be pretty painful, but that was a miss. We should have hit that, because for a few DJs who did, they talked about that was the highlight of Tuesday in the seminar. So let's transition over into that big room up or downstairs.
Oh, the expo. I was like, wait a minute. I am downstairs.
No. The big room downstairs.
Okay.
Stop it.
So let me start by saying, okay, this was my typical goal. I was planning to be in one of the first, 20 people in the door, and to be honest with you, I really didn't care as much this year. I got my swag, I got my t-shirts, but everybody and their brother was giving away a lanyard, including DJ Times. When you signed up and you got your pass, you got a lanyard. So I really wasn't going to be picking up a bunch of lanyards. But with that being said, what's kind of surprised me about the showroom floor is this year there wasn't a lot of tall exhibitors. And what I mean by that is, in the past, Pioneer would have a booth that was, I don't know technically how tall it may have been, 20, 30 feet into the air. They would go straight up, and they would make a trussing setup. And there were some people who did that. Chevet had it. JMAS had it. Most of the lighting companies is really where we saw it, where they had this, like I said, tall display. So in some ways that was kind of nice, because you could kind of get your bearings a little bit easier and kind of look, almost if you kind of stood a little bit taller, you could kind of look out. One thing I know people are going to say is it looked empty. We know there are some exhibitors and vendors that were not there this year. Whether they come back in the future or not, who knows? But in some ways, it was kind of nice, because you weren't on top of everybody. Like when you're talking to somebody, if somebody over here, the next booth over is, talking, you're not competing as much, assuming that you could hear over the other things that were going on inside. I watched more of the Sound Police this year.
Yep.
Now, I did hear some people say, well, they turned it down when Sound Police was there, and then they turned it up as soon as they left. Maybe. But I also know that I saw DJ Times being more proactive and sending those people around, and not just one person, but like 2 or 3. It seemed like that were constantly rotating and moving.
And they had the shirts.
MJ, what was that?
They had the shirts, the Sound Police shirts.
They did. Yeah. So you kind of stood out and you knew. And I think that kind of helped me feel a little bit reassured too. But we were in one booth, MJ and I were, and we were like, man, this seems loud. And MJ's like, let's check. So he pulled up his phone, he hit the decibel meter, and sure enough, they were bouncing at like 89.5 decibels, which everybody was supposed to be 90 and below. That's, so if everybody's doing 90 decibels or 89.5 decibels, yeah, it's going to be loud. What I found funny is that there were certain groups that were getting nailed, not nailed by DJ Expo, but in the forums, I was seeing people complain, and I saw one company get nailed for it. And I wanted to respond, and I just I pulled back because I didn't want to just get in a arguing match with this person. But I watched this company have it so quiet that I was standing 6-7 feet from the speakers, and I wasn't hearing them. I was hearing conversations. I was hearing different things going on. And I watched one of the head people go up one time, and actually, and when the stage was going on, turned it down to the point that, so now their performer unfortunately was playing for herself instead of the audience that was in front of her, but they turned it down, so they weren't trying to compete and just make themselves worse in that standpoint. Mm-hmm. But I will say this, when we're talking about sound, there is one booth in my viewpoint that knocked it out of the park when it comes to being able to do what they needed to do and not be an ear problem.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to type my guess.
To me?
No, I'm typing it here in the chat of who, which it's a speaker company, correct?
I'm not saying.
Well, no, you got to give me that.
Because I'm going to tell you, because I'm going to say they had to do what they had to do. They had to do what they had to do. So, it's not the pot store. Okay.
Oh man, that was my guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they were quiet. They were really chill.
Yeah. They were. And I just got so hungry after walking by their booth. But the Twinkie booth right next door.
That was awesome. That was good placement. Somebody like Twinkies. I missed that one.
Location. Okay, so
I'm still waiting. I haven't seen your guess yet.
I typed it into the chat now, and we're not saying it yet. It's okay. Give the lead up to it again, but don't mention names.
Okay, so this is a booth that when walking around, I was very impressed with how they handled the noise, to the point that, in my viewpoint, they won that battle, because they were a booth that, for the most part, needed to be heard. They were nearby some very loud booths, and yet they were perfect in how they handled it.
I was going to go with a company that did a wonderful job, but they were not in a booth and they were not downstairs. So,
yeah, I'm not talking demo rooms. That's kind of
okay. I still want to put a guess in.
Okay,
I'm gonna go with a company that I would have never guessed. I would have never said this in any other year, that they were a responsible sound company. I'm just going to put that out there. You guys, others are guessing? Mm-hmm. Jeffrey's guessing ADJ. That's because he was repping ADJ. Okay. Are you ready to give the answer? I'm going to hit return so it goes up, and then you can give me the answer.
Okay.
Here we go. Return.
I'm waiting.
Okay. I did.
Nope.
Oh!
Now let me put it this way. When you hear what I'm going to tell you as the winner, I'm not saying that they were not good. I'm not saying that they were not responsible. I'm saying my winner here and how they handled it.
Okay. And that is
the BPM Supreme booth. Now, for those of you that did not venture over there, this is, like I said, all the vendors need to do something like this. Okay. You go over, they had a DJ set up, so they had different high name, high profile DJs coming in to spin different times that are their people. Okay, so you could argue the fact that they didn't technically have to have sound, but we're gonna go that they did. Okay, they had the silent disco headphones.
Mm-hmm.
So and so what ended up happening was you walk up, and when somebody was performing, they gave you the headphones. So I don't know what level they had their volume at, but I know it was less than 90.
Oh,
I know
easily.
it was probably like even in the 70s, maybe your 60s, like coming out of their speaker. You put the headphones on, you heard it clear as day. Walked past when they were doing an interview with the DJ. It was DJ Enough. He had headphones on. The interviewer had headphones on, and there was a crowd of people around with these light up headphones on. There was no question. It was clear as day, and they were right next to PV.
Yeah.
Who was when PV was playing, they were hitting. And that was the group that I told you was 89.5.
Mm-hmm.
That was PV. All right, so they were within the confines, but they were using every bit of that, and like I said, so I was thoroughly impressed with their booth and how they handled it, and I really hope there are more that take advantage of that next year.
That was a good catch. Yeah, I went by there and saw the same thing, but yeah, I didn't. Good catch.
Yeah. Some people were talking about Denon. Denon was the one that I talked about that actually turned it down when the main stage came on. They turned it down. They were very responsible with how they handled it, but how you handle it and also get your sound point and everything across. And now that does become difficulty with speakers, because if I'm trying to hear a speaker, I'm not going to hear it with the headphone.
Mm-hmm.
But I could hear somebody spin on the Prime 4 or on the Rain 12s or on the Pioneer DDJ 1000 SRT. Like, those types of things could be taken advantage of with the headphones. But, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. While we're talking showroom floor, lights.
Yeah.
So this was shown a picture of, but pretty impressed with. Everybody seemed to love this. The Hurricane Bubble Haze.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know, this is a haze machine. It is a bubble machine, and it is a one that puts them two together.
Yes.
And now the key is you want to put it up high. But it was coming out, and it was like everybody wanted to touch it, because as soon as you touch it, it would pop in your hand, and it would be like this little haze. It was a cool little effect.
It was very neat.
So definitely would encourage checking them out, if nothing else, just to kind of see it in action. Because like I said, it was pretty neat just to see the case.
Did you get a price on that?
It was 5 something.
About 400.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it's in the 4s. So It's not as I actually was expecting 5 or 6, because some of the ones we saw at NAMM, there were a couple of them at NAMM, were pushing that, and they're probably maybe a different level of capability, but that was a pretty sweet little device. Lori looked at that. We've taken a bubbler and used it in parades. We put it on the top of the vehicle, and we're running bubbles, and they loft down the street, and the kids are like, ah, and they run in front of the big tractor that's right behind us and get run over. It's so much fun.
I was like wondering, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't this kind of a liability you're sitting in?
And so, it's just, there's nothing funnier than, watch that. So as she's looking at that, she's like, whoa, how cool would that be to have the haze one? So I had to look and see, what is it going to take for a generator to be able to do that? And we need 2, because you want to fire one each way. So that way, bubble haze. Yeah, it was pretty.
$479. That was the price that I just looked up for.
Okay. So yeah, at the show they were in the low 4s there.
Yeah.
Excellent.
There was a controller that caught my eye.
Yes.
And as nice as the 1000 SRT was, it wasn't that one.
It was
the Roland 707M.
Gotta agree with Jimmy on this one though. Why would you put a 1990s LED readout for the text?
Yeah, I have no idea why they went for something so, I don't want to call it basic, but yeah. Everything else they did on this machine, I was impressed with, except for that one display. And I don't know, is it an idea so that it's more readable?
I don't know. You've got to, for those of you who don't know, this is the Roland 707, 4-channel DJ controller. It has, you can put a couple of computers into it if you need to. It has microphone input. It has 2 mic inputs, which are higher quality mic preamps than typical. Then it has 2 more quarter-inch jacks that could technically be 4 different wireless microphones or microphones if you wanted to. A lot of flexibility. Basically, for a mobile DJ, this is getting to the point where it's getting close to being the thing that we want. But it's got this little, 1980s digital watch readout type of thing. That's all the information as you're selecting parameters and different things is you got that little readout, and that's it.
Yeah. But feedback destroyer.
Yeah.
And
I think there was a one button there. If you push that, you turn a little bit, it'll itch your back a little bit. It was pretty impressive.
that's why you bring an assistant.
Pretty impressive. Assistants cost too much. Cheaper to just push the button.
Yeah.
So yeah, a neat little device. I was really intrigued by that because of those 4-channel capability and that they upped the game. That's really the first unit that has really upped the game on the mic inputs. Even our Denon units, which are a little bit better than they used to be, still aren't to the level that we would like to have. And Ben Stowe's talked about that is that you've got to have that second mixer if you really want to get a decent sound with your microphones.
Well, they had high mid lows on both mics.
Both mics, yep.
Yeah, not the third and fourth, because the third and fourth are kind of like you can plug anything you want in that spot.
Yeah. Yep, you can like a finger stick it in the jack, anything pretty much, and it'll.
You gotta like it first though, so you get the.
Yeah, you want to get the shock. If you're not getting the shock, it's just no fun whatsoever.
Absolutely.
And you might as well be just going over to the Twinkie stand without walking past the marijuana stand. Okay, so the exhibit room, a couple of things you mentioned. Of course, there weren't the tall structures, and I definitely, thinking back to in the past, Pioneer would have had one. Blizzard lighting was back, which I didn't realize they are rebranding to Blizzard Pro. That was my bad, just because they've fallen off the the face of the earth for DJs. But Blizzard at one time had a huge trussing structure. American DJ, ADJ had a huge trussing structure. So it was definitely a different thing. ADJ went from that big structure down to like little booths that here's a kind of a beginner light show, here's a middle light show, and here's a more advanced light show on how to control it and such. So people could have a little hands-on experience. It was neat to see some of the things, but as people have pointed out, those aisles are a little bit wider this year, and there was part of the room that was, fenced off that we couldn't get to. I mean, it's just the beginning of the kind of contraction of some of these shows. Just reading Jay Brannon. Jay Brannon there is, if there's a guy who knows controller stuff, because he lives and works with that stuff. So I was just reading his post there about it being small and busy. And it was. There was a lot going on in a small package, for surely. So then Tuesday night, Howie, Jimmy, those 2 guys have been working tirelessly to put together the chill event that we had over at Irish Pubs, the Irish Pub there over on St. James Street. The chill event, this had been our 3rd year. The first year, we just were going to gather kind of informally, and there were like 40 people that made it out that night, and we basically took a table spot in the room, and that became our spot. Year 2, Jimmy and Howie upped the game, took us out to the patio, set up a DJ, set up lighting, and we just had a great event out on the patio last year. Had a little rain. You guys have seen the pictures. This year, they had planned to up the game even more. They had more lighting and more cool things with that. Jimmy had some additional things figured out with music and such they were going to do. And then it rained. It started raining early in the day, and it just rained, and it was kind of misty and rainy all day long. So our event moved inside. We went from a bigger sound system to just a single Evolve in a smaller area. And for those of you who've never been in the Irish Pub, the ceiling is like right there. The beams are like 6 inches above my head. If Troy Ackerman from DJ Event Planner's there, he has to duck. I was hitting my head on light fixtures. But we were inside. The videos, you can go and you can see the chill event videos on youtube.com/discjockeynews. You just go down, you can see the show Brian and I did. But the cool one that was kind of neat to watch is go out to, this is only going to be up for a few more weeks, by the way, because chew.tv is going away. But go to chew.tv/discjockeynews. and you will get to watch basically an iPad version of the area where where they were DJing and such. So it's actually the image was pretty clear and the sound was good. I was really surprised. I think it ran for about an hour, a little over an hour from the iPad, and then the staff at the pub came up and said, "Can you take that down?" Okay. So, but it gives you an idea of what it was like to be hanging out at the Chill event. And again, a shout out to Howie and Jimmy for putting together a great event. It didn't go as they had planned, and it didn't allow us to kind of mix DJs and swap back and forth like we did the year before. But it was still a fun event. And Howie and I were talking earlier, and I think that we may have topped 100 people that came through the door throughout the course of the evening. There was a lot of folks that came through, so it's a good time.
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed. And Jimmy and Howie, my hat's off to you guys, because I know what you put into it, and I know there's some frustrations, the fact that we had to change from being outside to inside, and that just kind of really played with everything there. But yeah, just the number of you guys that came out and supported it, because it's great. You had to get across town to get to it. And you came out and you hung out and you had some fun, and people were kind of bouncing around, dancing. There's some people that are talking, and yeah, it was exactly what we were wanting it to be, given the change of the location issue that we had to deal with.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. Another shout out, by the way, for the week. There was a lot of people who were helping with the DJNTV sides of things and such. And Peter, Hubcap dude, you guys are seeing him in the chat room tonight. Peter was big in getting people, getting us around and such from the airport and things. So I want to thank Peter for being a huge help for that. It just makes trips when we're doing these types of things so much easier to have someone who knows the area and can get you back and forth as quickly and easily as he did. So that was absolutely fabulous. And of course, Dan's wife, I want to thank her for letting Dan take a really cool car to take us from one spot to the other, because I'm sure Dan's probably driving some beat up old van, but his wife has got a fabulous family vehicle. So just, it was nice for her to.
Believe it or not, that's mine.
Whoa, that was pretty. That's pretty.
Because I only have to drive 5 miles to work, and she has to drive an hour. So,
so you get the one, and then she's got the mileage.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Tuesday. Wednesday, gosh, our time. Look at we're just running.
I don't have a lot for Wednesday, so I've got two seminars that really kind of hit.
What stood out for you?
We'll be able to pound this out quick. Nick Spinelli, the guy. So let me put it this way. In the past, I've often heard you need to watch what you say when you're presenting a seminar at DJ Expo. You can't swear, or if you do, you got to pull the Mike Walter and apologize for it 20 times before you actually say the word. Nick doesn't live by that philosophy.
Not many of you guys do, right?
And in fact, the title of his seminar was all the you need to know about Instagram. And the first one was get up Instagram. And I'm bleeping myself for censorship, but no, I thought it was great, because I think too often times we get in this habit of we just have to post that we don't really think about what we're doing or why we're doing it or how we're doing it and everything else. And he laid out, I must have taken 3 pages of notes just on ways to make sure you're doing it. And the key that you want to make sure you have is you got to make sure you have value. It's either got to be emotional, it's got to be entertaining, or it's got to be inspirational. Because when it comes to social media, if it's not doing something that creates engagement, if it's not causing people to somehow either make a comment or to at the very least give you a heart, it's not going to help your reach. It's not going to help people finding you, short of just using hashtags. And he also said, make sure you're tagging everything. Ask your couples for their handle. Make sure you're doing that. Go beyond just asking for what their hashtag is, but then make sure you're using hashtags for everything, but don't be afraid to kind of hide them. So for example, if you're doing gear, you're going to use a hashtag with the gear that you're using or something along those lines, then that's what you need to do. Just go ahead and bump it down. So it's not, you're not blasting your readers with it in that line. Like they want to see it, they do the show more, and then it shows up. Something that I thought was also 2 other things I thought that was interesting. He said his Instagram stories, he's finding that he's getting 2 times the engagement from the stories as he is from his feed. So now I don't know. I mean, somebody else that, uses Instagram a lot might not see that. It might be the opposite for you. But he was saying that he's noticed, especially for his own, he's getting at least 2 times the engagement for his stories as he is for the others. And that might be because stories, in my viewpoint, when I've looked at it, stories tend to show up a little bit easier. They're more at the top and you can kind of go through them, where in the feed, it's like you have to be seen in order for it to happen.
Yeah.
And then don't use third-party posts or third-party apps to plan your posts. What happens is it's hurting algorithms and things like that. So he's saying, he showed kind of a way to get around it. In my viewpoint, he really wasn't setting up a way around planning. He was kind of saving it. And then that way, when you're ready to post, you just hit post.
Mm-hmm.
But that still means you're hitting post when
Yeah.
you want to hit post. So, but I will say this, I've noticed also that, especially with Instagram and even kind of with Facebook mobile, when you're posting, it doesn't seem to be as important because it's more you're seeing what Facebook and what Instagram wants you to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's not chronological. Not as often anymore. And so with those kind of things, like making sure you're being specific. Now, 3:00 in the morning, no, that's a different story. But making sure you're not using those third parties, because it's just hurting your algorithm and your reach.
Yeah, and I definitely have heard that in numerous places, not just Nick talking about that. So he's hitting a nail on the head there.
And then my bonus came at the end of the day. It was the very last seminar that I went to, is Mark Reneisen.
Yeah.
He had a unique seminar. So first off, it was only half an hour long. Billed as an hour, only took it half an hour. And what he did was he interviewed a few potential clients. One that he actually has on the books, and then a couple other. I don't know where he got them. They were young. All right. Like one, I think the one kid was in high school. I think the other one had just graduated high school. So they were young, but interviewed them, as well as some vendors that he works with and things like that, to get their input and their advice that they would pass along to DJs.
Yeah.
And the one thing that stuck out to me was what the potentials kept saying: hate seeing ads. We hate pop-ups on websites. We don't want to see ads in our news feed and things like that. So realizing that obviously your sponsor stuff, that's a little bit different, but too often times what we're using for our posts, whether it's any of the social media, oh, you need to hire me for
Mm-hmm.
Stop doing it, because what's happening is they don't want to see that. They don't want to see that in their face all the time. And it's a big deterrent. And it was kind of funny because it was like, what do you hate? And it was like ads. I hate ads. I hate seeing ads in my feed. And it was just like that came from each person. It was like, oh, they don't like ads.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But
Interesting.
like I said, I thought Monday, obviously we both agree Monday was chock full of stuff. Tuesday was Tuesday. For lack of better terms, it had, it was, there was some solid stuff. I will say this: I sat in for part of the game seminar. I didn't do the mitzvah because I don't do mitzvahs, but I sat in for part of the game seminar, and what I sat in, it was a lot of fun. It was your usual. This is games. There's a bunch of people coming up and showing you how to do it, and you're going to get a lot more out of it if you participate. But whether you ever do them at events or not, and that's kind of my thought. It's like I probably never ever do these at events, but I'm going to have fun at it either way.
There you are.
So
excellent. Jeffrey had mentioned, what are some of the things that we would do different, or some suggestions. That's actually going to be the topic that we're going to hit tomorrow night with Brian and myself. We've got our hour here tonight, and I think Dan and I could probably make a laundry list of things. But I don't want to continue. You guys have been with us for a long time tonight. We've had about 65 people sticking with us throughout the live show tonight. So we want to thank you for that, everyone. And we'll be talking tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern. Brian Red and I are going to dig into this topic and a few other things we've got on the slate. And we'll have that link for you guys for tomorrow. Yeah. Well, good stuff, Dan. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hopefully, I know. I'm going to say this. I know there's always the bashers,
Mm-hmm.
and we see that. I thought this year's show was an improvement over last year's. I really do. I'm not saying it was knocked out of the park or anything like that. And like you said, there's a long list of things that we could do to talk about, improvements we as the people not necessarily in the know of what reason why they made those decisions, the Monday morning quarterback type of idea. There's definitely that, but I would say that I like the step up that I saw in some of the presentations. I like the step up that I saw from some of the vendors, even though fewer ones were there. I think some of them are being more creative so that they can have what they want without having to pay the union fees to do extravagant. I think somebody even mentioned in there that, we talked about, the big trust setups weren't there. And somebody said their thought was union fees. Maybe that's why they came down. That's less they have to potentially pay to move in. I'm sure that had something to do with that as well. But yeah, like I said, it was definitely an improvement there.
Yeah.
So
excellent.
On that note, I encourage everybody to make sure you're checking out the show tomorrow night with John and Brian. You can hear what they may have thought as far as some improvements to make, and maybe weigh in the chat room as well as your 2 cents as to what you thought maybe some improvements could have been. And I will say this, for those of you who didn't go, you can't say my improvement is I just put it in my house, because it doesn't work that way. You can't have the expo in your house. It just doesn't work that way. But thank you very much for bearing with us tonight. Hopefully you picked up something, especially if you weren't at the show, or if you were, it was a reminder of something that you heard that you can definitely take around and use, maybe even as soon as this weekend. But thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next week.
Good night.